All right, so we have already completed our discussion on the basic instruction. So tonight we will resume our previous discussion on the Satipatthana Sutta. Okay, so we are still on the basics of the Satipatthana instruction. So, kaya kaya nupasi viharati atapi sampajano satima vinaya loke abhijado manasa. The one dwells contemplating the body in the body, ardent, clearly comprehending and mindful, overcoming covetousness and grief with regards to the world. So you're not finished the discussion of this instruction yet. So I'm sure from all the discussion that we have had on the Satipatthana instruction previously, and also after going through the discussion on the basic instruction for the practice of Vipassana meditation, you should now be able to see how the Buddha's instruction of Satipatthana, how it is implemented in the basic Vipassana meditation instruction. So in the Satipatthana instruction, the Buddha, he mentioned atapi sampajano satima. So ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful. So this means that when we practice Satipatthana, so that means when we practice Anupassana. So the basic method of Satipatthana is Anupassana. So when we practice Satipatthana or Anupassana, when we are noting the four Satipatthana objects, when we are noting, contemplating the body, feeling, consciousness, and general dhammas, general phenomena. When you are noting these four objects continuously, relentlessly, without any break, when we are making effort to note this object precisely in each moment. So the Buddha says that the noting mind must be accompanied by three mental qualities. So first the Buddha says atapi. So that means this noting mind must possess this quality of burning effort, relentless effort that continuously exert the wholesome, pure noting mind, and driving this noting mind towards the object again and again, ensuring, making sure that the noting mind is carrying out the work of noting properly. So every moment when we note, this noting mind must possess this quality of ardent effort, burning effort, relentless effort. Then also sampajano. So the noting mind must possess this clarity, clarity of mind that discerns clearly the true nature of the object that is being noted. So there must be clarity of mind that discerns the nature. So when you note the object, and then the quality, let's say the quality of tightness is prominent in the experience. So the yogi must clearly discern this nature of tightness. Okay? So if the quality of stiffness is prominent, then the noting mind, the yogi must discern clearly this nature of stiffness. Okay? And nature of, let's say, unpleasantness is prominent in the experience, then the yogi must clearly discern as the nature of unpleasantness, must be clearly aware that this nature of unpleasantness is present in the experience. Okay? Or if the nature of knowing is prominent in the experience, and I must be clearly aware that there's this nature of knowing present in the experience. This is called clear comprehension. Yeah, clearly aware, clearly discerning whatever nature is prominent in the present moment, in the object that is being noted. Yeah? Not just discerning the nature of this mental physical phenomena. Yeah? So, but when you see, let's say, you experience clearly this quality arising, and this mental or physical qualities arising, tightness arising, you know clearly, you discern clearly, it's arising. Stiffness arising, you know clearly, stiffness is arising. So, the knowing is arising, or the unpleasantness is arising. You know, discern clearly the nature of arising. Okay? So, sometimes you can even see, discern clearly the nature of disappearing. You see this quality arise and then it disappear. Then you discern clearly in the mind, clearly aware of that disappearance. So tightness is disappearing, stiffness disappearing, unpleasantness disappearing, knowing disappearing. So discerning like this is called clear comprehension. So clearly aware of it. So this is wisdom. Clear comprehension is wisdom. So it's knowledge. So knowledge means the clarity of mind. And this clarity of mind discern this nature. Okay? So that's called clear comprehension. Okay? And in order to clearly comprehend the nature of the object, so in each noting, each moment when you note, yogi must exert this ardent, burning effort in order to observe the object with mindfulness, with this deep, penetrative awareness that observe the object so carefully, as if the mind is sinking into the object, exploring into the object thoroughly. Okay? So this is called satima. Okay? That means the noting mind possesses this quality of mindfulness. So every moment when the yogi notes the object, so the noting mind must possess this three quality. Must possess atapi, so ardent, energetic effort. And sampajano, clear comprehension that discerns clearly the nature of the object that's being noted. And mindfulness, okay? That explore, sink into the object. Okay? Now we have already previously discussed about this atapi in detail. Okay? So today we'll discuss about satima, how the noting mind is possessed of this quality of mindfulness. Mm. We'll discuss sampajano later. Although in the instruction actually, after atapi, the Buddha says sampajano, then only satima. Okay, so, but skip over sampajano first and go straight to satima, because this is following the sequence in the practice. When you practice, first you make effort, you summon up this ardent effort to do what? To be mindful, to cultivate mindfulness. Okay? And through the continuity of mindfulness, concentration develops. Right? And from concentration, then only clear comprehension comes. Okay? There's a sequence in practice. Okay. So later on, we'll come back to discuss about sampajano. So satima means it's possessed of this sati, or mindfulness. Now, sati, what is sati? All yogis should know sati very well. So it is a mental factor, a cetasika. So, so it's a cetasika that is at the very heart of the noting mind. Okay. So previously we mentioned that we described the noting mind as some kind of machinery consisting of these various mental states. Each of them perform their own individual functions, and then together they work together in order to carry out, accomplish the task of noting. Okay? And right at the heart of this machine is mindfulness. So, so what is mindfulness? To put it very simply, mindfulness is, you can say that mindfulness is this pure, wholesome awareness. Okay? Yeah. So normally we talk about mindfulness as a kind of awareness. Okay? So, yeah. But when we say that mindfulness is awareness, so you have to qualify it, because not all kinds of awareness. So, for example, sitting at home watching the TV, watching the Taiwanese serial drama. They always cry. They watch and watch. Oh, story so sad. You cry and cry and cry. So, you have awareness or not at that time? You are aware, right? You are aware. You're watching, right? But that awareness, it is not pure. It is not wholesome. It is accompanied by sorrow, grief. That's dosa in the mind. That's unwholesome. So, or if you tomorrow morning, let's say, breakfast time, you go to the dining hall. Oh, Sister Sam cook your favorite food. You sit down. From the moment you enter the dining hall, you saw the food. You lose all mindfulness. All you can think of is you ask you. In your mind, you tell this Venerable Vivekananda, hey, be quick if you're chanting. So you want to quickly go and sit and eat. So when you sit down, you look at the food. You look at it with greed, right? So there is awareness in our mind, but again, it is tainted by greed, by lobha. That is not mindfulness. That awareness is not mindfulness. So, so mindfulness is a pure, wholesome awareness. It's a wholesome state of mind. So, and this pure awareness of mindfulness, when it is present, it gives the mind the ability to be able to observe the object carefully, thoroughly, deeply, due to its nature. So it's the nature of mindfulness that when it is present in the mind is able to observe whatever object is present, whatever object that the mind is experiencing at that time. If there's mindfulness in the mind is able to observe that object carefully, thoroughly, deeply. So because of this nature, mindfulness allows the mind to experience the object thoroughly, completely, because it's a deep awareness of the object, it's a thorough awareness of the object, a very careful awareness of the object. So when you observe the object in this way, you are able to experience the object thoroughly, completely. So another way to describe mindfulness, you can say that mindfulness is the complete presence of mind. So it means the mind is completely present with the object. Whatever object you're experiencing right now, if there's mindfulness, your mind is completely with the object, 100% with the object, not distracted at all to anything else. So it's completely present with the object in a very focused way. So actually, mindfulness, it allows the mind to become focused and concentrated on the object by establishing the mind firmly on the object. Because this is the nature of mindfulness. When it's present, it establishes the mind firmly on the object. And because of this, the mind is able to focus, it's able to concentrate on the object. So that's why you see mindfulness, right mindfulness in the Noble Eightfold Path, right mindfulness comes under which group? Sila, Samadhi, or Panya? It comes under Samadhi, Khandha, the group of concentration. So right effort and right mindfulness and right concentration. These three path factors together, they are grouped together as Samadhi Khandha, the group of concentration. So mindfulness comes under concentration because of its nature. It establishes the mind firmly on the object. So this allows concentration to arise. It allows the mind to remain fixed, focused on the object without being distracted. So we mentioned earlier that this mindfulness is the wholesome awareness of the mind. So wholesome. So this means mindfulness is a wholesome state of mind. So therefore, when it is present in the mind, it comes together with all the qualities of the wholesome mind. So whenever mindfulness is present in the mind. So that mind is accompanied by all the different qualities of a wholesome mind. Okay? So what are these qualities of wholesome mind? So they has often been pointed out by Bhante Sujiva in his talks. All right, so the wholesome mind with mindfulness always arise with this three qualities: softness, peacefulness, clarity. Okay, so so when there's mindfulness in the mind is soft. Okay, it is not hard, not rigid. Okay, it is peaceful. Not agitated, not disturbed. It's peaceful, it's calm, it is settled. Okay? And it is clear, there's clarity in the mind. The mind is not muddy, blur. So these three qualities, softness, peacefulness, clarity. You can take these three as the early indicator whether there's mindfulness in the mind or not. Okay, so when your mind is soft, is peaceful, is clear, so it means at that time it is wholesome. Okay, so when when the mind is wholesome, mindfulness is present. Okay, yeah. Present doesn't mean that you will immediately know very clearly, it depends on the strength of the mindfulness also. Okay? So, yeah. On the other hand, if you find the mind is very hard, very rigid, it's a lot of resistance, it is like opposing the object, the mind is disturbed, is agitated, so the mind is not clear. So then that is an indication that there is no mindfulness. Okay? So when there's mindfulness, the mind is soft, it is peaceful, it is clear. Okay? But when it says soft and peaceful, so it does not mean that there's no effort in the mind. Sometimes when I tell people, mind is soft, it's peaceful, then there's mindfulness. Then they think, it's soft, it's peaceful. Then so we must relax, we must chill. No need to make effort. No, there is effort. Okay? Especially when you talk about the mindfulness in Vipassana meditation, it comes with ardent energetic effort. Okay? There's this ardent effort continuously to drive the mind to the object and to feel the object clearly, to sustain this mindfulness continuously. So there's this ardent effort. Okay? So practice of Satipatthana requires lots of effort. Okay? Yeah. However, the mind itself, because of the presence of this mindfulness, so the mind is wholesome, so the mind is soft. Yeah. So on the one hand, the noting mind, the wholesome noting mind. On the one hand, it is soft, it is peaceful, it is clear. On the other hand, there's a lot of effort. This ardent effort is present, right? So this is where you see the Vipassana noting mind. It can become very tricky. So you have these two opposing forces, right? So on the one hand, there's this ardent effort, which implies that the mind is being exerted, it is energetic, it is vibrant, it is active. On the other hand, it is soft, it is peaceful, which implies that the mind is very settled, very calm, relaxed, peaceful. So there's these two opposite forces at work when we are noting the active forces and the passive forces. So as a yogi, you need to be able to find a middle ground between these two forces. So you need to know to balance the mind such that the mind is not just soft, peaceful, and relaxed enough, so that the mind is able to settle into the object, become at ease and comfortable with the object. But at the same time, the mind is also energetic enough so that it is continuously exploring into the nature of each object that you are noting. Okay? So you must learn this balancing of the mind as a yogi, the balance between this energy and the concentration, viriya and samadhi. Okay? So, and every yogi must learn this skill to balance the mind. Okay? So, and you cannot learn this skill by reading, not even by listening to the Dhamma talk, although you may get some information from it. So you learn this skill through your practice. Okay? So especially in a retreat, a long retreat, you have this opportunity to learn the skill of balancing the mind. So you learn through your practice and also through the interviews. So when you go in for interview, you report your experience. So when the teacher listens to your report, then they can identify whether the energy is too much or too little, the concentration is too much or too little. Then the teacher will give you instruction how to adjust. Okay? So from this also you can learn, but you need to carry out the instruction. Okay? So and then over time, as you practice more and more, as you become more and more skillful in your practice, you begin to learn yourself how to balance. So you begin to learn to recognize the mind, whether it is balanced or imbalanced. Okay? And when it is imbalanced, what is imbalanced? What is too much? What is too little? You can recognize, you can feel your state of mind clearly, and then you know how to make adjustment to bring the noting mind back to a state of balance. So, so only when the mind is balanced, when there's just enough energy in the mind to exert the mind to note the object, not too much energy until the mind becomes tense and uneasy, not too not too little energy also until the mind becomes weak or lazy. So so you must learn to adjust the energy so that that's just the right degree of energy to do the work of noting without causing too much tension in the mind. Okay? And then also make sure that energy is enough so that the mind do not become weak or lazy. So you need to keep energizing it. So And then samadhi also, there must be just enough samadhi, concentration, so that the mind is able to remain at ease, comfortable, settled with each object that is noted. Okay? So there must not be too much samadhi until the mind becomes too still, becomes frozen, cannot move. Okay? So, and not too little samadhi also, until if there's too little concentration, then the mind becomes easily distracted. So when the virya and the samadhi is just right, it's just balanced, then the object that is noted will come into clear focus. Okay? If it is not balanced, if these two forces are not balanced, if the mind is either too tense or too weak, or it is too still or too easily distracted, then the mind cannot come into focus clearly. The object cannot come into focus clearly. Yes. So all yogis must learn this skill of balancing, this noting mind, through your practice. Okay, we come back to talk about mindfulness. Now, to have a better understanding about the nature of mindfulness, so it is useful to review again the commentarial explanation on the nature of mindfulness in terms of its characteristic, its function, and its manifestation. So first, we look at the characteristic of mindfulness. So characteristic means the nature. Nature here means characteristic means the unique characteristic. Okay? The nature of the characteristic that is unique to mindfulness. Okay? Yeah. So every Dhamma, every mental, physical Dhamma that is taught by the Buddha, it has a certain unique characteristic, which is peculiar only to that particular Dhamma. So, take for example, let's say citta. So citta has this nature of knowing. That is the nature of citta. So no other mental state have this nature. Okay, so only citta has this nature of knowing. Okay? So it's unique to citta. Okay? So another example, let's say rupa, let's say the earth element. So earth element has the unique characteristic hardness or softness. This is its nature. And this nature is unique only to earth element. Okay? So no other materiality share in this nature. So for example, fire element. Fire element is not hard, it's not soft. Right? So it has other nature. Nature of fire element is temperature, heat or cold. That is the nature unique to fire element. So each Dhamma has their own unique nature. And when in your practice, when you discern this nature, you know that you are experiencing this Dhamma. So let's say you experience hardness or softness, you know at that time what you are experiencing is the earth element. Okay? So, because that is the unique nature. This is unique only to earth element. There's nothing else that has this nature. So if you experience that nature, then you know you are experiencing that Dhamma. So what is the unique nature of mindfulness? So it is explained as apilapana, lakkhana. Okay, so this means apilapana means not floating. Okay, so mindfulness. We say mindfulness is awareness, awareness of the object. So not floating means this awareness, when it is present, it does not float about on the surface of the object. That means it's not superficial. It doesn't float about superficially on the surface of the object. Just like when you throw a ball or empty bottle into the pool of water. So what happened? They float on the surface of the water. Right? So when it's floating on the surface of the water, it is unsteady. Right? So when the wind comes, it can be blown away. When the waves come, it can be swept away. It can be easily carried away. So it's not steady. It is not firmly established anywhere. It is just floating about there on the surface. So that's the nature of the mind without mindfulness. So when you have no mindfulness in your mind, the mind is not firmly established on the object that you are experiencing. So that type of mind is very unsteady. It can be easily swept away, easily distracted by the mental defilements. Okay? So not floating. Not floating means what? Means that it sinks into the object. So so just like when you throw something heavy into the pool of water, like you throw a rock into the pool of water, immediately the rock sinks right to the bottom of the pool, and there it remains firmly established. So no wave, no wind can move it, can shake it. It's firmly established there. Okay? So so it remains steady, because it's firmly established there, it remains steady, cannot be carried away. So the mind that is with mindfulness is also similar to this. It sinks right into the object. Okay, it firmly establishes itself on the object. Okay. So that's why in the commentary, sometimes the characteristic of mindfulness is also explained as upatthana lakkhana. It has the characteristic of firmly establishing. Okay? So it established the mind firmly on the object. Just like the rock, it sinks right to the bottom and it establishes itself firmly there. And so when the noting mind, there's mindfulness, so it causes the mind to sink right into the object and establish the mind firmly on the object. So sinking means the mind, we say that the whole mind sinks into the object. That means the whole mind is immersed completely into the object. So mindfulness causes the mind to be completely immersed into the object. Okay? So just like when you take a piece of cloth and then you completely immerse the cloth into, let's say, a bowl of water. Right? So when the cloth is completely immersed into the water, what happens? You'll be completely drenched with the water. It will soak in the water completely. So in the same way, so when there's mindfulness, so the whole mind is immersed into the object. So the mind completely takes in the object, just like the cloth soak up the water. So the mind also completely take in the object. Okay? So because of this nature of mindfulness, so the mind is able to experience the object thoroughly, completely. Okay? Because the whole mind is completely in the object, taking in the object completely. Another way to describe this is to say that mindfulness is the awareness. So it's wholehearted. Right? So the mind, when the mind thoroughly sinks into the object, so there's wholehearted awareness. The whole mind is completely just with the object. So this is the characteristic of mindfulness. It is caused the mind to sink into the object, sinking or firmly established on the object. You can also describe it as the characteristic of non-superficiality. So it's not a superficial awareness. It's a very deep awareness. It immerses the mind completely into the object. So it's a very deep awareness of the object. Okay, so non-superficiality. And the next is the function of mindfulness. Right? So function of mindfulness is asamosa rasa. So this has been explained as non-forgetfulness. Okay? So mindfulness exercises this function, non-forgetfulness. This means it does not allow the mind to forget the object. Okay, so when mindfulness is present in the mind, so it does not allow the mind to forget the object. So it always keeps the attention on the object. Okay? So it always remember the object. It doesn't forget. It always remember to keep with the object. So the attention, the mind's attention, when mindfulness is present, the mind's attention never abandons the object. It never turns away from the object. So it means it's not distracted. It cannot be distracted. It's always focused on the object. Okay? So when mindfulness is present, the attention is always kept firmly on the object. Again, it comes back to the nature of mindfulness. It firmly establishes the mind on the object. So this comes back again to what we mentioned just now, the complete presence of mind. Okay? So if it doesn't forget the object, that means it's completely with the object. So whatever object you note, the mind is always completely with the object. The attention never turns away from the object, because mindfulness does not allow the mind to turn away. So when you note, for example, you're not rising, so you're able to note continuously the movement of rising from beginning to the end, rising. And so the attention never turns away from noting of the rising. And falling also, falling from beginning to the end. The attention is completely with the falling movement. It never forgets it. So sitting, touching, also the same. When you're not sitting, as long as you hold your attention continuously, noting the sitting. When you turn your attention to note the touching, then even go to the touching, and then you will stick with the touching, noting it continuously, never forgetting. And touching. So when you switch back to sitting, again it goes to the sitting, and then it stays there. As long as you hold the attention there, it stays with it continuously. Okay? Never forgetting it. Walking meditation also the same. So when you're not lifting, the mind is able to stay continuously with the entire process of lifting from beginning to the end. Pushing also, placing also. Okay? So we never forget. Always keep the mind on whatever object that you are noting. So this means the mind is not absent-minded. So when there's no mindfulness, you're absent-minded. Okay? So when you're absent-minded, so there's no mindfulness, nothing to remind the mind. So you're absent-minded. So you don't always remember to stay with whatever object or whatever activity you are doing. Okay? So you can see a lot of this in everyday life. People running about without mindfulness. So absent-minded. The mind is easily distracted. You do something, halfway you get distracted, you abandon your task, you run to do another thing. You do that halfway, again get distracted. So you don't have, without mindfulness, there's no focus, attention on what you are doing. So the mind is very weak, easily distracted. The slightest thing can pull your attention easily away from whatever you are doing. So in meditation also, your mindfulness is not strong, you know the object, then some other object, even very weak object in the background can pull your attention easily. So because the mindfulness is not firmly established. So if the mindfulness is weak, it cannot establish the mind firmly enough. Then it can easily forget whatever object that you are noting, abandon it, and then run to no other object. So you find your mindfulness is not strong and not well developed yet. So your mind keeps going this object, that object, that object. So you become like restless after a while. Okay? You cannot develop properly. Okay? That's why in the beginning of your practice, you must summon up this very ardent, energetic effort, very firm, strong, burning effort to charge your noting mind, to charge the mindfulness, so that at least it has some strength. So that it's not easily distracted away. So without strength of mindfulness, the mind is easily distracted. You have short attention lifespan. So you can see this nowadays, especially with children that grows up with all this modern internet technology. The internet is designed to give you, a short boost of pleasure. Then after that is finished, then you want more, then you have to go after more, and then more, and then more. Take for example, when you are shopping online, you look at this, oh, this one good, you click, then you see halfway through, you read the specification, but halfway through you see on the side, there's this link. This also looks nice, then you click. Then yeah, then after that you really, hey, this one also nice. You click and you click and then you click. Yeah. So, so this encourage the development of this short attention lifespan. Yeah. So not very helpful for meditation. And so after a while, that will become the nature of your mind. So that means the mindfulness is very weak. You cannot hold your attention long enough on one thing, which is what you need to do when you meditate. So, yeah. So when there's mindfulness, so the mind is strong. Yeah. So mindfulness will carry out this function, non-forgetfulness. So it doesn't abandon the task that is doing. So for the yogi, you'll be able to complete your noting. Okay? So when you're not rising, you're able to note it from beginning to the end. So otherwise, without this strong mindfulness, you're not rising, you come to this object, come back rising, come to this object, come to this rising. So in this way, your noting mind will not develop effectively. Okay? But you have this strong mindfulness, you're able to follow in a very focused way, continuously, from beginning right to the end of the rising movement, or the falling movement, or you're sitting, or touching, and so on. You're able to complete the task of each noting. So, yeah. So when mindfulness, you develop it and it occurs continuously. So that means in every moment there's mindfulness, and in every moment the mindfulness is carrying out this function of non-forgetfulness. So the yogi will find he or she will be able to keep the attention continuously on whatever object that you are noting. You're not rising, you're able to note from beginning to the end. If you're not falling, you're able to note from beginning to the end. If you're not sitting, you're able to sustain your attention continuously on sitting until you shift the attention to not touching. When you shift the attention to touching, you're able to sustain it there continuously until you shift it back to sitting. Okay, so and because it's occurring continuously, so you do not miss a. Yeah, so you're able to note each object from beginning to end, and even after the object finish, disappear. So because of the presence of mindfulness, it remembers that even the object disappear, it remembers. It must continue noting on the object. Okay? So in this way, the mindful noting occur continuously from one object to another without a break. Okay? So there's no gap in the noting. Okay? So even when you're not rising, so it stops for a while. There's a gap there. The mind remembers to note something else. So it goes to note sitting, or touching. Then after that, falling occur. Then it goes back, falling. When the falling comes to the end, there's a gap. It does not remain without noting. It continues to note again, sitting, touching, until the rising movement starts to occur again. Then it goes back, rising. Yeah. So because of this, of the function of mindfulness, so it keeps the mind continuous, and this helps to build up the continuity of the noting mind, of the mindfulness. Yeah. So next is the manifestation of mindfulness. And so, the manifestation means how mindfulness appear. When you say mindfulness is present in the mind, and then you note that mindfulness. Do you know that you can take mindfulness as an object? being mindful of mindfulness. So when you note mindfulness, how does it appear? That's the manifestation. Manifestation simply means how it manifests, how it appears in experience. Okay? So this manifestation is explained as Visaya Abhimukha. So it means Visaya means object. Object. So Abhimukha, Mukha means what? The face. So Abhimukha means it's face to face with the object. So that's the manifestation of mindfulness, coming face to face with the object. So that means, so when you're face to face with the object, that means the mind is looking straight into the object. So it doesn't turn away to the object. It doesn't look at the object like sideways. It looks straight into it, like it's confronting it. So, so it confronts the object. You can say that it confronts the object. So every moment when there's mindfulness present, the mind is confronting the object, looking straight into the object. And so it keeps looking at the object, straight into it again and again and again. And it's like there's this very intense looking at the object, almost like the mind is staring at the object. So that's why I say mindfulness is a very careful attention of the object. So it's observing the object very intently. Okay? So that's the nature of mindfulness. So it's like when scientists they carry out the experiment, they must observe the experiment very, very intently, carefully, in order to be able not to miss anything, so that they can record every single observation about the experiment. So the yogi also, when there's mindfulness, is able to observe the object very intently, because the mind is looking straight into the object, and it's like plunging into the object, sinking into it. So it's able to observe it very deeply. Okay? So, so mindfulness, when it's present continuously in the mind, so the mind will be always watching the object intently, carefully, every single moment. So in this way also, it allows the mind to be able to experience the object clearly and thoroughly. Now, another manifestation of mindfulness is araka, araka pachupata. That means araka means guarding. So mindfulness appears to be, when it's present, mindfulness appears to be guarding the mind. Okay? It's guarding the mind, preventing this unwholesome defilements from intruding into the mind. Okay? So when there's this careful, wholesome attention present in the mind, so no mental defilements able to intrude into the mind, to defile the mind, to cause the mind to become impure. So therefore the mind, as long as mindfulness remains in the mind remains pure, it remains undisturbed. Okay? So when it's pure, it is undisturbed, the mind is able to settle down, become at ease, become composed. Okay? Yeah. So mindfulness guards the mind. And this is very important for meditation. So mindfulness offers protection for the mind. Okay? And when we meditate, we need to protect the mind. Okay? So why? Because when we meditate, we are developing very intense state of mind, right? So, we must ensure when we are developing such an intense state of mind, we need to ensure that the mind is pure. There's no defilements in the mind. Yeah. Otherwise, if there's defilements in the mind, and you try to focus the mind, so the defilements itself becomes very intense, and this can be very dangerous, right? So, yeah. Take for example, when you're noting the pain. So if there's no mindfulness, you're noting without mindfulness, or you lose the mindfulness because it's so painful. You lose the mindfulness. You note anger arise. And you don't realize anger has arisen because there's no mindfulness. And then you put in more effort to not pain. So become more and more intense. That anger also become more and more intense. So become intense enough, you can even explode. A volcano erupt. So very dangerous. That's why you must protect the mind when you meditate. That's why you need mindfulness. Okay, and this is true not just for Vipassana meditation. It is true for Samatha meditation as well. You need to protect the mind. In fact, actually for Samatha, it is even more important because the concentration developed through Samatha is even more intense. The focus is even more intense. So if it comes with defilements, the defilements can become very, very intense. So you need mindfulness when you practice meditation. So the last is we discuss about the proximate cause of mindfulness. Proximate cause means the principal condition that causes is mindfulness to arise, or the principal condition that supports it. Okay? So, and this is explained as tirasanya padattana. So tirasanya means firm perception. Okay? So a firm perception of the object. That is the proximate cause, giving rise to mindfulness. Okay? So sanya perception. Sanya means the nature of recognizing, mental nature that recognizes the object. Okay? So when you experience an object and you can recognize the object, so that recognition, that state of mind, and that recognize the object, that is sanya. Okay? Usually sanya in our everyday life outside of retreat, it works at more of on a conceptual level. So it recognizes things in a conceptual level, various concepts. So you see, this is a monk, this is a lay person, layman, laywoman, this is siale. You can recognize. So this is a table, this is a chair, that is the amplifier. You recognize. Okay? So these are all concepts. So in our everyday life, the sanya works at the level of concept. Okay? So, but when we practice Vipassana meditation, we train the mind to come down to the level of bare, direct experience. Okay? And then the sanya that accompanies the noting mind will also work at this level. So it recognizes just the bare, direct experience of the object, stripped of any concept, just the bare nature. So, for example, when you see, so you're really noting, your noting mind is really in the present moment when you note You're seeing, you're not. So you don't see a person. All you see is just colors. Colors in the present moment. Just is the bare experience of seeing. So you hear sound also, just the bare sound. So you only know that sound. So you don't go further than that. In what sound is this? In the everyday life, it goes into that level. You recognize, oh, this is the sound of insect. So by Vipassana, you train the mind to go down to the bare experience. So the sanya just pick up sound. That's all. What sound? It doesn't worry. It doesn't dwell into it. Just sound. So this is what the Buddha meant when he says, "Ditte ditta mattam bhavisati." In what is seen, there will be only what is seen. In what is heard, there will be only what is heard, and so on. Okay? So that's the bare experience. So sanya works at this level. So take for example, when you touching. So in a walking meditation, when you place your foot down on the floor, it's touching. Right? So when you note touching, then you feel, you can pick up, the sanya can pick up various nature, various qualities. There's hardness, there's coolness, there's smoothness. So it's sanya that picks it up. So picks up this bare qualities of the object. So and this is what we call taking note. So when we take note, it's actually sanya at work. So sanya is taking note. Right? When you place your attention there, you can feel, oh, there's hardness, there's coolness, there's smoothness, there's tingling. So sanya is taking note. This is what we mean by noting. You are taking note of whatever nature is there. So sanya is at work at that time. Okay. So yeah. But when sanya, when you're noting, remember, it works without any thinking. Okay. So it's not that you put your attention there, then you feel this quality, and then you start to think, consider, oh, what is this quality? There's no thinking. The moment you place your attention there, the mind comes into clear contact with the object. Immediately, sanya is able to pick up this quality. There's not even any words involved. In your mind, you don't even have to say, I know what is this. This is hardness. This is softness. This is what. The mind simply experiences this quality one after another. Okay, this sanya at work is able to. So sanya is recognizing all these different qualities in the experience. Right? There's hardness, there's coolness, there's knowing. So we recognize all these different qualities. Okay? So, in order to be able to, for sanya to pick up all this quality properly, there must be this careful attention. Right? The mind must observe carefully. So this careful observation, that is mindfulness. Okay, so because of the effort to try, when you want to note the object more carefully, so you have to make effort for the mind to observe more carefully. Okay, so in this way, this gives rise to mindfulness. So the more careful you try to observe the object, the stronger will be the mindfulness. Okay? So this is the proximate cause of the mindfulness. So when you make effort to try to note the object clearly, so attention becomes very careful. Okay, and so it gives rise to this mindfulness. Yeah. All right. So from this, you can understand from discussion on the characteristic, function, the manifestation, and the proximate cause of this mindfulness. You can see clearly that mindfulness is not an ordinary kind of awareness. It's not a superficial kind of awareness. It's a very deep, careful, thorough awareness of the object. It's an awareness that sinks into the object, enabling the mind to take in the object completely, to experience it completely, experience it thoroughly. Okay? So it is this kind of awareness that you must have every moment when you note that object. Okay, okay, we stop here today. Yes.
Okay. I heard Bante was mentioning mindfulness is a very deep, thorough understanding of the object, to take in the object completely and to experience it thoroughly. You say we cannot say, oh, this is the, for example, this is table or this is chair. So that means the mind is talking. If let's say we don't discern in such a way, we just see, how we go deep into this object. We just observe like that, without any thinking. And how we know that we already deeply go into experience it thoroughly.
Yeah, you will know when you experience it. So the mind, you can feel the strength of the mind, the strength of mindfulness. You can feel its nature. The mind is firmly established on the object, observing it carefully. So it's like the mind is very intimate with the object. You can feel it, all the nature that we described just now. This characteristic, the function, the manifestation, all that, you can experience it when mindfulness is present. That's how you know.
Bante, you say noting, right? So noting, do we need to say, in our heart, say that, noting, this is tightness, this is pain. Do we need to note like that, or we just know that this is pain? Do we need to say the words in our mind?
No, what you are asking is, do we need to label the experience? Yes. So in the beginning, it's very helpful to label. Okay, so in the beginning, your mindfulness is not continuous anyway. So it's helpful to make use of the label. So to direct the attention again and again to the object. Okay, so yeah, but when you use a label, try to make the use simple label. Make the label as simple as possible. In fact, if you can reduce it to just one syllable. Yeah, because if the label is too long, too complicated, in the beginning it's still all right. But as you develop, as the mindfulness become more and more continuous, you will find that if your label is very complicated, very long, it will interrupt with the process of noting. So you can use very short label. Sometimes I just reduce to just like rising, you can cut it, just rise. Falling, you cut it to just fall. So the rise, fall. So after a while, you can even reduce the labeling. So like when it start to rise, you just label one time rise, and then you just follow follow from beginning to the end. When it falls, you just label one time fall, and then you follow it from beginning to the end. Okay, so noting can take place without labeling also. Okay, some at certain stages of development, the practice, when the noting becomes very, very fast, the object also starts to appear very, very fast, one after another. So sometimes the yogi can no longer label. It's too fast. So then at the time, you just have to keep noting. That means you let the awareness flow with the object that is unfolding one after another. Observing them carefully, one moment to another to another. So that's called noting, but there's no labeling anymore. Okay, so
Sorry, Bante. I have one more question. You say ardent effort? Do we need to really put an effort to remember the thing? For example, we rise, so we must remember we rise. Then we fall. Then we must remember we fall. Do we need to make effort to remember the object or the action or painfulness, this or emotion? All this, do we need to make effort to remember, or it's just that we are emotionless?
Yeah, to make effort to know clearly. Rising, you know clearly rising. Falling, you know clearly falling. So you can only know clearly if the mind is noting. That means the mind is with the object, experiencing it clearly. So not just rising, falling, but any state of mind that arise also must not know. Means must be clearly aware. Anger arise, you know clearly there's anger. Frustration arise, you know clearly frustration. Okay?
Okay.
Like this. But with emotion, you don't dwell into the story behind the emotion. Remember just now we said just the bare experience of the nature. So if frustration, just just frustration. Right? So what you don't dwell into what the mind is frustrated about. Right?
Okay.
So there's anger, then there's anger. Okay, but you don't pay attention to what the mind is angry about. Okay, so that means your mind is just on the nature of anger. It's just greed or attachment. The mind is just on the nature of attachment. Okay, not what it doesn't dwell into what the mind is being attached to. Your son or your family members or your money. You just know as attachment, and this is the nature. It's sticky. It grabs very strongly. It holds. It doesn't let go. You can experience this nature. Okay. So, but without thinking. So you don't analyze. You just feel the nature. Okay. Nothing is just one moment. One moment is too quick. You don't have time to think, oh, what is this? You just feel. The attachment is there. You can feel the nature of attachment immediately. So you just let the mind experience it clearly. That's all. Okay? So when you experience it clearly, there's mindfulness, then naturally all this state of mind will disappear by itself. Okay? So that's all you do. Just this Satipatthana practice is actually very simple. It's just mindfulness and clear comprehension. Right? So Sati Sampajanya. So you're mindful what is there, you're clearly aware what is there. That's all. You don't do anything more than that. So there's rising, you're mindful of the rising, you're clearly aware there's rising. That's all. There's falling again, you're mindful of it, you're clearly aware that is this nature of falling. States of mind also. You're mindful of it, you're clearly aware of it. That's all. You don't do anything else other than that. Okay?
Bhante,
Yes.
okay. Thank you, Bhante.
Yeah, you're clear?
Yeah, can we use this technique while we are not meditating, meaning that we are mindful what we are doing on the daily life?
Yeah, sure. In your everyday life. But in your everyday life, outside of a retreat, you cannot go as deep as when you are in a retreat. You cannot go down. Usually, unless you are very experienced yogi, skillful yogis, then occasionally you may go down to this level of bare experience of the object. But otherwise, usually in our everyday life, we remain at the level of concepts. But mindfulness can still be there. You can still direct your mindfulness to all these concepts. Mindfulness can still be there. Okay? But it's just that it's at the level of concept, which means it's not the Vipassana kind of awareness. Okay? But it's still helpful. It's still helpful. So at least you maintain your mindfulness continuously by being aware of your daily activities, all the thoughts, emotion that runs through your mind. If you are continuously mindful, in this way, you keep the mind wholesome. So it's still very beneficial, and it is a way to keep up with your practice in your everyday life. Rather better than having no mindfulness at all. So at least you still sustain, even though they are just concepts. You still sustain your attention and your mindfulness continuously.
Okay, thank you. Yes, thank you,
So
Bhante.
in everyday mindfulness, so often we cannot sink down to the level of the nama rupa, bare experience of the nama rupa. In fact, often it can be even dangerous to do that. If you are driving, you go and sink down to the level of bad experience. You see the car in front is still nothing. Seeing. So you cross your road also. You're not aware of the car. You're just not seeing. Before long, you have to note pain. So you have to somehow you have to maintain the mind at the level of concept. But occasionally, when your daily activities is simple enough and it's not dangerous. So, for example, if you are a passenger in a car, somebody else is driving, you're just sitting there. Then you can turn your attention back to rising, falling, the sitting. Then at that time, your mind may be, if you are skillful enough, experienced enough in your practice, your mind may be able to sink in to the level of the ultimate realities. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Bhante.
Okay, so let's see, in the chat room there are other questions.
Excuse me, Bhante. I've got a question. My question is, do we consciously identify objects or let objects just arise and we work on it? Or another question is, are there lists of common objects or popular objects to meditate on?
Did you follow the previous talks on the basic instructions?
Not all.
So, yeah, or you haven't. You can try to get those recording of those instruction again. So we mentioned already all the objects that we usually know. So in our practice, rising, falling, sitting, touching, in the sitting meditation, the steps in the walking meditation, and so on. So we already mentioned that. Okay? So you can try to get the recording or get a hold of the book on basic instruction by Mahasi Sayadaw. Or in there. So when you're not the object, so now to experience the object, you simply just bring your attention to the object. Okay, so and you don't have to think about the object. So just bring the attention to the object. As soon as the mind is clearly contact with the object, it will experience the object by itself. It will be able to pick up the nature of the object by itself. You don't have to do anything else. Okay? So for example, experience of touching. So previously I asked you all to put your hands on the surface. So you can try, you put your hand on the surface of the armrest of your chair. So you put it there, then bring your attention there to where it's touching. Right? And so just let the mind experience it clearly. So you find the moment the mind is in contact with that point of touching, immediately you can pick up. So the nature that is present, right? You can notice the pressure, so the firmness, the warmness. So as soon as the mind is in touch with the object, you can pick up all this material nature that is present. Okay? Without thinking, you don't even have to form any words in your mind. Right? You don't even have to say, oh, this is a nature of firmness, this is the nature of warmness. No, the mind experiences it, it understands immediately. It discerns immediately. Okay? So that is called knowledge in meditation. Okay? That's why knowledge means the clarity of mind that discerns clearly all this nature that is present within the object that is being noted. The nature is there. It's always there. All you need to do is bring the mind to the object. The moment the mind is in contact with the object, immediately it will work by itself. It will pick up all this nature. So.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay. Go back there. Very late. During standing meditation, there's a tendency to drift to moha state of mind, even though I mindfully not knowing. It is as though one is looking directly at the big fat root of avidya itself. At what point should one stop this noting and continue with the walking? Yeah. So this shows that the mindfulness is not very firm yet. So, yeah. So knowing avidya. Yeah, you should bring the mind back to the walking process. So, yeah, and establish it firmly on the walking process. Okay? And note with energetic effort to discern clearly nature of the steps as it unfolds. Okay, so you have to make extra effort to note, to sharpen the discernment of the mind. Okay, so once you sharpen the discernment of the mind, the discerning quality of the mind, again and again, by noting the process of the footstep, lifting, pushing, placing. And so you do this again and again, you sharpen the discernment, the quality of discernment. Mm. Then it will help to dispel this nature of avijja. I don't understand this question. Bhante, why touching, sitting? If one is mindful, one never forgets, keeps the mind on the object. So no absent mind. Sitting and touching is continuous. Tense. I don't know. Why need sitting? Because in the beginning, your mindfulness is not continuous. So you have to note continuously. So, Bhante, in our everyday life, we tend to multitask. For example, we turn on music while driving, we burn aromatic incense while reading. Do such concurrent activation of multiple sensory organs weaken our mindfulness from the main activity, driving and reading? Not if you can keep your mind on whatever you are doing. Your mind doesn't have to be distracted to other things. So just because there are these objects there doesn't mean you have to let your mind go to it. As we mentioned during the basic instruction, if the object is not prominent, you ignore it. Right? So you remain with what you are noting, the primary object. Okay? So in your everyday life also, if you're driving, then be aware of driving. Right? So don't play music. No need to play. So there's so much things to be aware of, and when you are driving, the mind is already busy as it is, right? That's why I always discourage people from listening to Dhamma talk in the car, playing Dhamma talk CD. So you cannot focus completely on the Dhamma talk. So that means you're listening in a very disrespectful way. When you listen to Dhamma, you're supposed to listen with wholehearted attention. Then only you're listening to the Dhamma respectfully. So when you're listening, half driving, half listening, so your attention is split. Right? So this is not the right way to listen to Dhamma talk. Bhante, when Buddha meditates on the Bodhi tree, the Mara comes to disturb the Buddha. How did Buddha manage to balance talking with Mara and maintain his mindfulness under the Bodhi tree and attain enlightenment? Actually, this story is more of a, how to say, what is the word for it? Allegory, is it? Yeah, allegory. So the Mara actually represents the defilements, Kilesa Mara. But in the story, it's like it's been personified as like a deity. So, so even the name of the three daughters of Mara, what is that? Tanha, Rati, and Raga. Yeah, these are defilements. So, so the Buddha will deal with it in the same way that we deal with it. So, mindfulness. Every night when I went to bed, I try to maintain my mindfulness of my breathing, rising, falling. But I find that the more awake I become, so much so that it will be 1 a.m. or even 2 a.m. before I fall asleep. What is your advice? One day, if it continues for 3 or 4 days at a stretch, then I will wake up feeling groggy due to lack of sleep. Yeah. So reduce your effort. So not in a more relaxed way. Okay. Yeah. So if you are on a retreat, then I ask you to continue energetically, because a yogi in a retreat, when you lie down at night, you're not supposed to have the idea that you're going to sleep. Rather, you're lying down to meditate in the lying position, in a lying posture. So you meditate until when you get really tired, then you fall asleep. Okay? But outside of a retreat, because you have to go to work the next morning, so then, so in this case, so you reduce the effort, not in a more relaxed manner. Okay, so don't put too much energy into the noting. Okay. Okay, that's all the question, and it's already very late. Stop here today. Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Buddham Puji Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Dhammam Pujemi Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Sangham Pujemi Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Mata Pitunam Pujemi Imaya Dhammanu Dhamma Patipatiya Acharyanam Pujemi Adha Imaya Patibadaya Charam Ranamha Parimochesami Idam me punyam asawakaya waham hotu Idam me punyam nibbanasa pacayo hotu Idam me silam magabhalanyanasa pacayo hotu Imam no punya bhagam sabbasadanam dema Imam no punya bhagam sabbasadanam dema Imam no punya bhagam sabbasadanam dema Sadhu Sadhu Sadhu. So may all of you be well, happy and peaceful always. May you be healthy and strong and safe. May you be able to continue your practice of the Dhamma without any obstacle. Practice smoothly, and may you all be able to experience the unconditioned peace of Nibbana through your practice of the Dhamma.